Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Technology Tuesday, brought to you by Out of the Box Technology. We're very happy to bring you these free webinars every week that highlight what's going on here at Out of the Box Technology, as well as tips and tricks from in and outside of QuickBooks. And every now and then we host a favorite partner from the industry. My name is Jennifer, and I will be your moderator today. I've been hosting these Technology Tuesdays for just over a year now, and it really is a highlight of my week. And now that we're showcasing some of the great solutions that we provide within out-of-the-box technology, it just really brings it a lot more closer to home. So it's really exciting. If you have any questions as we go through the presentation today, you can go ahead and send those over to me via the chat or question box on your GoToWebinar control panel, and we'll address those as we go throughout the session. A little bit about out-of-the-box technology. If you aren't familiar with us or you haven't joined us for a session in previous weeks, we are a QuickBooks consulting firm. We do training, integration, hosting, and support for all versions of QuickBooks. We also have a great bookkeeping team, as well as an IT and development side of our business that does website design, custom app development, and others. And that is really what we're going to be focusing on today, as we have Jonathan Barris on the line with us. He's the senior graphic designer here at Out of the Box Technology, and he's going to kind of talk about the role that he plays here and the solutions that he can offer to your business for both marketing and graphic design, website solutions, and more. So at this time, Jonathan, I'm going to hand things over to you and let you take it away.
All right, sounds good. Let me just get my screen up, and there we go. All right, so as Jennifer said, I'm here to kind of talk about your digital brand. As she was saying, who am I? I'm Jonathan Barris, the senior graphic designer and web designer of Out of the Box Technology. So basically what that means is I handle anything related to design in the company. So I handle all of our internal marketing stuff. I maintain our website, any conference and trade show graphics, stuff like that. I basically make things look nice. So that's a pretty basic way of putting it. So what I'm here to talk about today, though, really comes down to foundations of digital branding. That's kind of what I wanted to focus on today, because I think there's a lot of stuff we can talk about there, and I think that is a really good thing to concentrate on when you're looking at your business and things you can do to improve on it. So when we're talking about digital branding, what we really want to do is look at what does your brand look like online. And really, there's a lot of different things we can look at, but I found three main statistics that I think really give a good argument for why this is important to look at. Because, I mean, your online brand can span across so many different channels that it's really something you're going to want to put some time and effort into. So this first statistic, 3.3 billion people are active on social media. So if you think about that, there's 3.3 billion people just active on social media. And so if you're not on social media actively marketing your business, you're missing out on a huge chunk of your audience. And I specifically put that on there too because, okay, maybe 10 years ago, you could make the argument, well, social media is for really young people. Like, my audience is not on there. That's not the audience I'm marketing to. Today, there's 3.3 billion people on social media. So if there's not a segment in there that's your audience, I'm not sure who your audience is then. There has to be somebody on social media that you want to market to. So it is so important that you're on social media and really marketing your brand. Because as this next one says, social media and watching video are the two most popular online activities. So that's what people are doing online. They're checking their social media, they're watching videos. So those are opportunities you can tap into to build up your clients, build up customers, run some ads, all that kind of stuff. So these are all channels that your brand can work into. And that third one there, over 51% of smartphone users have found new brands or products while searching from their mobile device. So that's another huge thing, is SEO, search engine optimization. People are pulling out their phones when they're out in public, on the go, and they're looking for stuff they need. That's something you're going to want to focus on. I mean, people have smartphones, they're actively searching. If your brand isn't online, if it's not presentable, if your website isn't mobile compatible, they're not going to find you, they're not going to pay attention to you. That's why this is so important. Your digital brand spans throughout all of these different channels. So you're going to want to focus on these, build them up. The more you concentrate on this, the bigger you can build your customer base or your client base. So how do you build a strong brand? Well, I kind of broke it down into 3 things as to what an online marketing campaign should get. And I put 2 screenshots on here of classic 90s terrible design websites. So obviously these are terrible. But when you're looking at these, you can kind of compare them against the 3 things I put up there. When you look at these, they don't really have my trust. If I look at this and I'm looking to buy something, I don't trust this company. I'm not going to buy anything from them. Number 2, technically it does get my attention. You can make an argument there, but it's attention in a bad way. Okay, this is bad design. I see the bad design, it gets my attention, but I'm going to run away from that really fast. It should get your attention in a good way. It should stand apart from the competition. So it's important to look at your competition, what they look like, and you should be doing something different than them, and it should get people's attention. Number 3, it should get results. So your website should be bringing in visitors, and those visitors should be converted into customers or clients. So if your website is out there, but you are not noticing any kind of results, there's something going on with your design. There's something that needs to change there to start converting these people into customers. So if we look at online marketing as a whole, there's 3 different pillars I want to focus on for today and kind of review them and see kind of where your business is at in terms of these 3 pillars, because I think if you really nail these 3 pillars, you have a really solid foundation for your online marketing campaign that will really do good for your business. So those 3 things are your logo, your website, and advertisements. And specifically for advertisements, I'm going to talk about videos. There's a lot of different things you can talk about there, but we're going to focus on videos for today. So I'll go through each one of these one by one, and as I talk about these, definitely think about what your business is doing in terms of these 3 things. What does your current logo look like, your website, your advertisements? And think about how you're doing with these things. So let's jump right in, and the first one is logo design. So this is obviously one of the main things you want to focus on for your online brand, because this is basically your business all summed up into one little icon. So that's why it's so important. This is what people are going to see when you have a letterhead, when you go to a trade show or a conference. It's going to be on your website. This is everywhere. So it's so important that your brand is summarized into this one little icon, and it represents your business effectively. So does your logo need a redesign? I put some pretty popular logo redesigns on the right there, and you can kind of see where they evolved their logo. And the reason why I put these there is kind of to start thinking about, well, you might think your logo is fine, like you're happy with it, you don't think it needs to change, there's nothing wrong with it. Well, if a company as big as like eBay here, like we can all look at this and say, well, that's not a huge change to their logo. That's a waste of time. But if a company as big as eBay is changing their logo in this minor way, that means this is important. They're not going to waste their time on this if it's not important. So they spend the time and the energy on this because this is what people are looking at when they come browse their website and when they market their brand. So definitely think about what you can do with your logo. What are the foundations of an effective logo? Well, there's three things an effective logo should have. That's legibility, versatility, and brandability. I put some popular logos down there on the bottom. I'm sure you're all familiar with these. These are businesses we all know and love. Maybe not all love, but they're there. We recognize them. Most of these are just icons. There's hardly even any words in there, but we all recognize them. I would say all of these companies are successful because they're paying attention to each of these three things. So number one, they're paying attention to legibility. Your logo needs to be able to be read at small and large sizes. And going with that, imagery needs to be recognized at large and small sizes. A good example of this, I was driving the other day, and there was actually a truck in front of me, probably 20, 30 feet in front of me. And on the back of their truck, it had some words, but they had their logo on there. And to the left of the logo was this little blob. It looked like somebody took a paintbrush and they just kind of swirled it around there. And I was like, what the heck is that? Why? I literally thought somebody like put graffiti on that truck or something. And then we got to a stoplight and I pulled up closer and I realized, oh, that's actually just a very, very detailed icon illustration of a truck. But it was so detailed from far away, it just looked like a blob of nothing. So this is why it's so important to focus on how many details are in your logo, because from far away, like when you're driving, for instance, like people can see that logo on a truck, and it's so important to capture that moment and really implant your brand into people's brains, because that's really one of the most effective ways you can build your brand. And the third point here, no harsh colors. So if we look at these logos down here, we can kind of pick up bits and pieces of this advice in here, right? So harsh colors in here, I would say this S, that's a very light yellow and is going to be really hard to read, especially at a small size. The photography down here, that's a very small font. It's very light. If you put that as a small size, it's going to be hard to see. The Tree Doctor logo here, it's a nice bolder font, so that's good, but the imagery here is too detailed again. Like, I'm not even really sure what's going on here, but there's too many details going on there. And then again, the color in this one, this tech especially, is very bright, so that's going to be very harsh and is pretty hard to read. And this subtitle here is pretty tough, especially because of the font choice. So legibility is very important in a logo. Next is versatility. And what are we talking about here? So I pulled out this screenshot of somebody's brand guidelines, and what brand guidelines are basically, when you have a logo designed, a designer should be providing this kind of book, and it basically goes through your entire brand and different applications of the logo, and basically tells you how to apply that brand throughout different marketing for your company. So this is one page of this company's brand guidelines. And on this page specifically, they give you some different logo variations. So this kind of shows you how to use your logo in different situations. So here you can kind of see this one's very long and horizontal, so that would work well on a website in the nav bar. But let's say you have an app icon that's small and square, that long horizontal logo isn't going to work very well. So you're going to want something more like this icon. So they kind of break that down in here, and you have this main logo, but they also give you different scenarios of what to do if it's on a black background, what to do if it's on a white background, what to do if it's on a yellow background. All of these things are things you should consider when you redesign your logo, or if you have a current logo, is it working in these different applications? So that's versatility, and then third is brandability. So this is another page of some brand guidelines, and you can see the main logo here. And what we mean when we say brandability, that's basically how you can expand that logo into other areas of the marketing. So you can kind of see their logo here and all the other parts of their marketing, and it all kind of comes together into a one seamless look. And the other part of that is recognizable and unique. So your logo needs to be unique to you. It needs to stand out from the competition. Your customers should be able to recall that logo. That would be a sign of a really good logo. So we think of all the businesses and brands we know and love. I'm sure you can at least have some kind of memory of what that logo looked like. So those are kind of the three main things of an effective logo. So let's think about that. Is it time for a redesign? Think about your current logo right now. Can you read it at smaller sizes? Does it work on a black background? Do your customers remember what your logo looks like from memory? Does it feel like it was made in the 90s? That's another thing to think about, is technology, styles, trends, those all change over time. So maybe your logo was great 10 years ago, but times are changing and there's nothing wrong with redesigning your logo. All those companies we showed before, you know, they've changed their logo too over time. They're keeping up with technology and trends and styles. So it's definitely important to consider this, because I think every once in a while you just have to give your logo kind of a new look and think, is this working for us? Could we do better? So that's kind of what logos are, and gives you a good idea of what you can do there. But moving forward, if a logo is kind of like the cover of a book, once you open that book, that's kind of like your website. So that's the next very important part of your online brand that we want to talk about. So here are some basic reasons for why your website might need a redesign. Number one, it doesn't stand out from the competition. So if your website looks very similar to a competitor's website, it doesn't really give a client or potential customer much reason to pick you over your competition. Number two, it doesn't reflect the rest of your brand. If you have a logo that just looks completely out of place on your website, or everything just looks kind of hodgepodge, it would be a good time to look at it all overall and kind of think, how do we bring this all together? Number three, you're not targeting the right audience. So if your website is just kind of a very dull brand and isn't really targeting one specific niche, that could be a reason you want to redesign it. Number four, it's built on outdated technology. Technology is constantly changing. What might have worked for you 5 years ago doesn't really work today, or there might just be a more efficient way to build your website. Maybe your website wasn't built on a CMS, a content management system. There's a lot more today than there were 5 years ago. So that's something to think about. Is your content something you want to be able to change yourself? That could be a reason to redesign your website. Number five, it's not mobile friendly. So this is a pretty big thing in 2019, and it's not really excusable anymore. Everyone has a smartphone. There are so many smartphone users out there. Your website needs to be able to be used on a mobile phone. If your website does not scale down to a mobile phone by now, it's definitely time to redesign. Because number six, it's not SEO optimized. That kind of correlates with number five, because Google will dock your website in search engine results if it's not mobile friendly. So that's definitely something to think about. and let's actually expand on SEO and how you can optimize that. So you might hear the word SEO and think, I looked into SEO experts a while ago and they're just too expensive. They want to charge thousands of dollars to manage our SEO, and we can't afford that as a small business. If that's you, I mean, there are definitely ways you can handle this yourself, and you don't have to spend thousands of dollars on SEO to continuously improve it. The key to SEO, even the SEO experts month to month will focus on this, and that's content is king. The more content you have, the more opportunities for Google to learn about you. So as you're building your website and you submit it to Google, think about if you submitted a one-page website to Google, they would crawl that site, they would learn a little bit about you, and they would say, okay, you're submitted into the Google algorithms and we know a little bit about you. Versus if you had a 100-page website, think about how much more Google could learn about you if you had 100 pages of content. This is why it's so important to have more content, because that's more content for Google to crawl, and that's more opportunities for your website to appear in search engine results. So as you're building your content, there's kind of basically your workflow should be researching the keywords first of all. And there's a lot of different methods you could do there, but basically think about your audience, and if they're going to buy something from you, what would they search on Google to find you? And start a list of things that they would start Googling that you would want to appear for. And then that's your list of keywords. And then you need to build out pages on your website that target each of those keywords. And that's how you would expand on your content. A really easy way to do that is to start a blog on your website. And then each blog post can target a different keyword. So that's how you create content with those keywords. And then after that, promote the content. Push it on social media, make a video about it. Share that link wherever you can, because the more that link appears in other places, the more that indicates to Google, hey, that's an authority on this topic. We're going to push them up the ranks. So this is kind of what you want to keep in mind when you're looking at SEO on your website. There's obviously so much more to SEO, but like I said, if you're thinking SEO is too big of a thing for you to handle and you want to simplify it, this is a way to do it. Even the SEO experts that you would hire, this is what they're going to be doing if you hire them. They're going to create content, Google's going to crawl that content, your website will go up in the search ranks. There's not really a way to hack that. That's basically what it all boils down to. So what can out-of-the-box technology do for your website? So we can do a lot of things for your website. Definitely something to think about while we're going through this is it time to redesign your website? Is it mobile compatible? Do we need to fix that? We can also make and design landing pages. So if you have a product specifically you want to sell and create a new website for and create a new splash landing page for, we can design that for you. We work very well with WordPress too, so if you want a custom WordPress theme, we can create that for you, or we can customize themes. We can also maintain your WordPress website if you already have one, or maybe you're having problems with your WordPress website. We can take a look at that and probably fix it up for you. We also have some really amazing developers on hand that can create app integrations. They work really well with any kind of API, and they can create all sorts of complex websites for you. So really any kind of idea you have for a website or an integration, anything you want to do, shoot us a message. We can talk about it. Let's figure it out and figure out how to make that idea a reality. So the last pillar I wanted to talk about today is advertisements, and specifically I wanted to talk about video advertisements. So there's a few different types of video advertising you could do, but I wanted to focus on explainer videos and social media videos. So what are explainer videos? So explainer videos basically is probably between a 1 and 2 minute video that gives you a high level of information about your product. This should make it very easy for people to understand what your product is, what it does, and who it's made for. So I have 2 examples here that we've actually put together. And this is for a product we actually make ourselves, but we put together this video to kind of give people a good overview of what Recur 360 is, what it does. It has some very simple animations to it, but these are kind of things that it's sometimes hard to put into words on the website what your product does. So sometimes an animation might be able to illustrate it better. So we made this just to kind of give a good overview of what our product does and how it can help a customer. So here's kind of scrolling through all of the benefits of Recur 360, how it syncs with QuickBooks, and a few of the different benefits. And these also work really well if you go to a trade show or a conference and you have any kind of screens behind you. These are really good to have looping in the background to catch people's attention as they're walking by. Here's another one we did. This one was specifically made for a conference, actually. And this was playing on TV, so people would see this as they're walking by. So they kind of see our logo and get a good idea of the kind of products and services we offer. The nice bright orange-red background kind of grabs their attention. And normally these are kept to, like I said, around a minute or 2. They don't have to have a voiceover. Sometimes a voiceover can kind of help speed it along, but you can definitely use text on the screen too to get that done. There's a lot of different ways to do it. So that's just another example of an explainer video. And when you're using the explainer videos on your website, a lot of times people feature them on the front page right at the top. There's a little play icon here you can see as an example. But usually they're very prominent, and usually customers see them, they click on them, they watch them, they get a much better idea of what your product is that you're selling. So when should you consider an explainer video? Well, think about your landing page. If it's not converting visitors, this could be a good way to engage them on your website. Or maybe you've heard that customers get confused as to what your product is and what it does and what it can offer them. A video could be a very good way to show them that. And it can also be a good way for you to illustrate what your product is. Like I was saying before, if it's too hard to explain in words, try illustrating it. A lot of times an illustration just kind of simplifies it, and that makes it easier for people to understand, and a lot of customers like that. So think about that. But there's also kind of another type of animation you could consider, and that's videos on social media. So these, I put them in a different category. They're basically the same type, but essentially these would be much shorter videos, ideally around 10 to 30 seconds. They don't rely on sound, and they grab attention really easily. So these would be uploaded to Facebook just directly, and ideally people would see these as they're scrolling through social media. And think about that time frame. As they're scrolling through social media, you only have a few seconds to grab their attention. So that's why it's so important not to rely on sound too, because they're not automatically going to click on your video and put on the sound. So these I wouldn't do a voiceover for. I would keep it very short and simple, but make it really flashy so that when they're scrolling through, that catches their attention. So here's an example of when we did about a year ago, we had a campaign and we wanted people to vote for Recur 360. So we pushed this one to Facebook and people would see this, and you can see the different colored backgrounds changing and a lot of flashy animations. That gets people's attention and help drive more votes to our product. So that ideally is what a social media video would do. It's much shorter. These are obviously much quicker to make, but these are really good. They also make very good paid advertisements. So if you wanted to pay for any kind of advertising on social media, these are really good for that. They tend to convert a bit better than any kind of text advertisement since they have that visual component to them. So really either kind of animation explainer video or a social media animation, we can definitely help put that together for you if that's something you're interested in. Definitely shoot us a message. And even if you don't really have a specific idea for what you want, let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. We're here to kind of brainstorm it. That's kind of on us to put the visuals together. So if you don't have a specific idea, that's totally okay. Maybe you just know you want a video. Let's figure it out and let's get it made, because I think that would be really good for your business. So those are basically the three pillars: logos, websites, animations. There's a lot more to online branding that we could get into, a lot more different strategies, but hopefully that gives you a really good overview of the main starting points you can start at, because maybe you haven't paid much attention to your digital online presence before and you're just getting started. This is definitely a good overview of that, and I would start with these three things, because if you get these three started, I think you'll be doing pretty good. So thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm more than happy to answer them.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jonathan. That was a lot of really good information and advice too, I think, for companies. I like that you touched on the fact that, you know, even some of the biggest brands out there reinvent over time. You know, you don't have the same logo for 30 years, even if you're super successful. I imagine they are super successful because they've, you know, updated and become current and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really great to touch on. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if a company does have, you know, a brand, they have their logo, they have a kind of a basic website, and they are interested in having you help to update that, what's sort of the process then? Do they kind of give some ideas of what they're looking for and then you run with it, or do customers typically allow you to just get creative and come back to them with a couple options, or how does that typically work with you?
Sure. So for logos, it could really go either way. If you have a specific idea for what you would want in a logo, we are more than happy to work with that. If you don't have any kind of idea, that's totally fine too. The process would more or less be the same. How I usually do it is I work up a bunch of different concepts myself, and then I narrow that down to 2 different concepts, and I present you with those 2 different logo concepts. And when I present them, I'll show them to you in a lot of different variations, like we talked about earlier, on a black background, on a white background. I'll show you what they look like embroidered, all that kind of stuff. And then from there, it kind of comes down to which direction you would want to go. If you're happy with one of those logos, we can stop there. If you want to see revisions to one of them, that's totally fine too. we'll basically keep working on it until you're happy with it, and when we can really feel like we nailed your brand into one logo. Websites, I mean, obviously there's a lot more to go off of there. If you want to start from scratch there, we can work with you to kind of figure out a navigation for your website with different pages you need, and then work on picking out a platform to build that on, whether it's WordPress or something else. And then we'll kind of go from there. I'll probably do some mock-ups of the design and get those finalized. And then we work on actually developing the theme, pushing the content, and then putting it live. As far as the animations, that again is kind of like the logo, where if you have a specific idea, that's great. That helps us get a jump start a little bit faster. If you don't, that's also totally fine, and we can kind of work with you on figuring out a nice basic overview of what your product or service is. We would kind of write out a basic script of how the video would look and make a storyboard of it. So that would basically give you some screenshots of every 10 seconds or so of what the different scenes would look like. And then we would start animating it. And from there, that's pretty much it. And we can do revisions as necessary, but yeah.
Cool, thank you for answering that. Another question we have is, after you design and develop the website and everything goes live, is it then in the hands of the client to continue with pushing content or making any updates, or are you still available to help in any capacity after go live?
Sure. Yeah, we definitely don't just push the website live and expect everything to be handled by you. We are always available if you run into any issues, or if you want to push more content live. That's definitely something we can always lend a hand with.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I don't see any other questions coming in, so I'll give just another 30 seconds if anyone who's watching with us right now has questions. But Jonathan, did you have any final comments or anything you wanted to hit on before we wrap up?
I don't think so. I think that should do it. And like I said, definitely shoot us a message or give us a call if any of this is interesting to you. Again, even if you don't have a really good idea of what you want, and if you just want to learn more, let's talk about it and let's figure out a good path for building your online brand.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say, the same thing. Even if you're not sure if you need help, you've been staring at the same website for 15 years and you're like, I think it looks good, but I'm not sure, and just want a second set of eyes, I'm sure that our team would be happy to take a look. And even if it's tweaking a few things here and there, and maybe it's not a full overhaul of everything, but I know personally Jonathan has done an awesome job with the internal work that he's done, and even the clients that he's worked on. We've heard so many great things. So you're in great hands with this one, that's for sure.
Thanks.
All right. Well, if you are looking for more information, like Jonathan said, reach out. I'll share our information at the end here. You can email us or give a call or just fill out a form online to contact us, and we will definitely get in touch right away with you. So I'm going to go ahead and take this back and share my screen again. So as I said, we are kind of shifting the focus of Technology Tuesdays to what we do here internally. So that's why we were so happy to have Jonathan on with us today. We're going to be off for 2 weeks as spring break hits, and kind of wrap up a couple of things here from the first quarter. But we'll be back on April 9th, and our sales manager, Donna, will be on with us, kind of taking everyone through the process of what it means to become an out-of-the-box client. So you sent in the website form, or you emailed us via the ProAdvisor site, or however you got in touch, and then what? So, you'll have conversations with certain people. So she's going to kind of walk through all of that and what it looks like to be a client of ours. And then Josh will be with us the following week going over our hosting services, and we are really excited to have him on. He's been preparing for this. It was actually rescheduled from a couple weeks ago because he really wanted to be sure to give you a great presentation. So again, these are all completely free. We hope you can join us. They're also all recorded. So if you aren't able to join live, you can always watch all of our Technology Tuesdays on demand at your convenience by checking out the blog.outoftheboxtechnology.com. So you can find those there. And if you have ideas for topics coming up, if there's something that you want to hear about, feel free to email me and I will research the best expert to get in here and give a presentation on that. If you have questions about today, questions about anything related out of the box, go ahead and contact us. You can email me directly, or again, just head over to our website and there's a contact form there as well. So Jonathan, thank you again for joining us today, and thank you everyone who was listening in live and submitting your questions. We do appreciate your participation, and we hope to see you all again next week. Thanks so much.